today. And let me get Esther Davis real quickly up to the microphone, and we can get Esther up real quick because Esther is an icon in this community, and we have known Esther for many, many years here. And God bless you, Esther Davis. I just want to acknowledge you. How are you, Esther?
Hey, how are you doing, Robert Ashley? It's always a pleasure to come up with be with you at KHV. And we only have, about a 25 or 30-year relationship?
And you have done your own thing in the media. You have the Esther Davis Show, and you have been working with this great group of people here. And we also want to give a shout out there to, we understand they appeared on Glenn Beck's show, and they've been down to the Mission Church around Bedford, Texas here. And Esther, how did you kind of get hooked up with our guests here? Then we'll talk with our guests.
Well, since the abductions 3 or 4 years ago, we have been mesmerized by the fact that someone could walk into a village, a town, anywhere in the world and take 200 girls. So we followed it. The National Council of Negro Women, my television show followed it. I actually had a show, as you know, in Washington, D.C. for many years. So we kept talking about it just to see what was going on. And we would, they would drop the news stuff, and then they would pick it back up a little bit. It was like a roller coaster ride, but there was nothing consistent. This past February, I was in South Korea for a whole week. And the agenda, when I got to South Korea, in the middle of winter, I might add, was 19 degrees the whole time I was there. But the agenda was all about Africa. So your prime ministers and people from all over the 12 countries in Africa attended the World Conference, Robert. And so, of course, when I get there, I said, where are the girls? Because we want to know where the girls were.
Yes.
And the minute I bought this, there were 300 people in this conference. And Dick Cheney came to the conference, and so many other people, dignitaries from around the world were there. But every session I went into, it was where were the girls? And they couldn't give us concrete answers because there were about 5 journalists, female journalists from America that were there. So that's how it really got started. And once I left Korea, that was my 4th trip to Korea, I might add. We come back to Washington. Doug and I have been corresponding about, where are the girls? But all these other things came up, like the killings and the ransom money, things we didn't know anything about because mainstream media was not covering it. So that's really how it got started. And Robert, you attended our first Dallas Black Press meeting that we had a couple of months ago.
Yes, indeed.
We have got to get out into the world as Dallas people because they all know about us. But we've got to get outside of our walls, meaning the United States of America, get into these other countries. Like David is behind the camera over here. He has a unique story. And here comes Magna. Hi, come on in. Come on in. But that is basically the story. We're always, Robert, as you know, on the forefront of something, and we have to make it happen. Welcome, Magna. We're happy to have you here.
Yes, we thank you, Esther, for being so international because, we only, not necessarily want to be local, we want to be global as well. And you're bringing in Magna Faith, and I understand Magna is from Nigeria. And Magna, are you a journalist from Nigeria living in Silver Springs, Maryland?
Absolutely. I'm a Nigerian journalist based out of the DMV area, DC, Maryland, Virginia.
Wow, well, we welcome you to the Dallas-Fort Worth area here, and I thank you so much for your practice of journalism. What can you tell us? We're going to talk in just a minute here with Al Harvey and Mercy, and of course Mr. Burton, but the whole thing about the African girls being abducted by so-called Muslim terrorists, we understand that there could be fractions of these type of groups. What can you tell us? Just educate us about what's really going on there.
Mercy?
Oh, okay. This is Mercy. Actually, I'll start by telling you a little about what happened to me. The Fulani herdsmen, they've been terrorizing our state for quite a long time now, like 2 to 3 years. They've been kidnapping people. The roads are unsafe. Our houses are unsafe. You are in your house and they kidnap you. Like me, they personally came to my house and kidnapped me, my mom, and 2 of my cousin boys. And they took us to their camp. We walked for over 14 hours before we got to the camp, where we stayed for over 10 days. And during the stay there, they were talking to my dad on how much should be paid before we can be released. And even when we were there, we were sleeping on the floor. There was the weather was really cold, but we had no blankets, no bed, nothing. We were just there lying on the floor, and we had to wait till when we had the money to be given to them before we can be released. So this is really what has been happening. We have a lot of girls in different parts of Nigeria that get kidnapped almost on a daily basis. You go to churches and they come to the church, they kidnap the pastor, the members, and everyone. You know, this has been happening, and the government is not doing anything about it. No one is saying anything. If your family members don't get money to come pay for your ransom, you get killed. That is what keeps happening. And like the girl Leah, who refused to renounce her faith, and she's still being kept by these people. They call themselves Boko Haram, and the people who kidnapped me are the Fulani militants. But we feel they are still the same people, but they are just changing names from Boko Haram to Fulani militants, and now some people call them armed bandits. So that's what keeps happening. But we believe these are the same people, and these people can be caught. They have phones, they make conversations. Some of them have military uniforms, and you sometimes you just wonder how they just can't end these things when we know they can if they want to. But these things keep happening, and the government is not saying anything or doing anything about it. And even our vice president said like 2 or 3 days back in New York that these kidnappings are not true. I'm here to testify that these things are really true, and they are happening, and people are really suffering. It's either you get killed or maybe molested, but it happens. Things happens, and these things are real.
Okay, let me ask you this, Mercy. What, and now the Fulani group that abducted you, and of course there's Boko Haram, what do they want? And then you talked about Leah, who refused to renounce her Christian faith. What do they want? Why are they abducting people? What do they want? Do they want you to surrender? What do they want?
Yeah, most of them, but we feel it's either they want to Fulanize the country or Islamize the country, or they are trying to grab our lands. Because earlier this year, the Kajuru community was attacked by these same Fulani men. These people were kidnapping 2 years back. They kept kidnapping people. They go house to house kidnapping people. And then when from kidnapping, they got enough money to buy arms, they came back to killing us earlier this year. So I want to believe, and right now they burnt houses, and we have a lot of displaced people. So some of these people are not in those villages. And so these Fulani people now are trying to occupy these villages that they burnt down the villagers' houses and drove them out of the villages. So I feel one of the reasons why they are doing this is to occupy those places, to grab the lands, and
Yes,
you know, yeah.
Once again, that's Mercy. And Mercy, are you from? This happened to you in Nigeria? Was it?
Yes,
It
in
was in
Nigeria,
Nigeria.
Kaduna State.
And so, and before we get Al Harry into the conversation, Mr. Burton as well, there's a fight for Nigeria. We understand that some portions of Nigeria is totally Christian, some portions is totally Islamic and Muslim. So is there a fight for Nigeria?
There is
Doug, can you get into that?
Yes, thank you, Robert. It's really a pleasure. It's really an honor to be here.
Pleasure having you.
There is a fight for the soul of Nigeria. The nation is divided about right down the middle, 50% Muslim and 50% Christian.
Yes.
And this has been a fight that's been going on really for decades. The nation was founded with a secular constitution in 1960, but there's been a steady climb in the control and the dominance of the Muslims, and the leadership of the government, the president, most members of his administration, and all the leaders of the security apparatus and the military are all Muslims, chiefly from one ethnicity, the Fulani ethnicity, which is the people who have been doing these massacres.
Now what about Goodluck Jonathan? Wasn't there a president at one time by the name of Goodluck Jonathan who was a Christian?
Absolutely.
Whatever happened to him?
Well, let these ladies explain. He was succeeded. He was succeeded by Mr. Muhammadu Buhari.
Mm-hmm.
Harry.
Well, let's see here. Let's talk to Al Harry. Now, Al Harry, let's bring you into the conversation. And Mercy, thank you so much for your testimony. And by the way, Mercy, one last question. How did you eventually get away? Did your father have to pay a ransom, or were you able to escape, or did you have to renounce your Christian faith and act Muslim or something?
Yeah. After the negotiation, the bargain between my father and the kidnappers,
Yes.
after 10 days, my dad was able to raise the sum of 5 million naira. That's like $14,000.
Okay.
And
He paid for your
He
freedom?
paid for our freedom. Yeah.
Wow, I mean, did they ask you to renounce your Christian belief, or are you a Christian?
Not really. Yeah, I'm a Christian,
But-
but they didn't ask me to renounce my Christian. They are in different groups. Some do that, but some don't. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay, well, once again, thank God you're alive and well,
Yeah.
Mercy. Let's go to Al Harry. Al Harry, God.
Thanks for having me here.
Okay, now what's your, I'll tell you what, Sherry, do we need to pause right now for just a quick break? 'Cause I'm getting really tied up in listening to these testimonies. Now, once again, we are talking here with Mercy. Al Harry is here. We also have Doug Bird. Now, Doug at one time was a journalist with the Washington Times. Newsweek now, Doug has his own news operation. Is it War Desk News, Doug?
Yes, sir, War Desk News, we got War Desk News YouTube, War Desk News on Facebook, and our website, wardesknews.com. Keep us in mind for news tabs. Thank you, Robert.
All right, and Magna Faith is with us also. And Magna Faith, to pronounce your last name for me, is it Kimberly?
Magna Faith Creamy.
Creamy.
Yes.
Magna Faith Creamy also is with us from Nigeria, a journalist who is here. And once again, we're just kind of turning the spotlight on what happened and behind the scenes of the Boko Haram and the Fulani group. And once again, now some are saying that this is coming to the United States, but others say, well, no, America is a land of the free. But then again, aren't we woofing right now with a Muslim nation by the name of Iran? Okay, we're going to pause right now for a quick break. We'll be back with more right after this. First Lady Michelle Obama sent the word out that she was really concerned about the 200 girls who have been abducted in Nigeria. And today we're kind of getting an insight on it thanks to our good friend Esther Davis. And of course, Esther has been kind of with this particular entourage here out of Nigeria. They appeared on the Glenn Beck show out in South Lake, also on Daystar, the Esther Davis show. They spent a little time at the Mission Church in Bedford, Texas. And of course, they're kind of winding up their Texas finale right here on the Heaven 97. Now in studio with us once again, Mercy. Now Mercy was abducted by a group called terrorist group Fulani group, and of course they're kind of equivalent to Boko Haram. And these are African Muslims here, and Nigeria is a country that is split between Muslims and Christians. But as it stands right now, there are those in the Christian community who believe that their rights are being denied and that they're being overrun by Muslim terrorists, if you will. Al Harry is also with us today, and of course we have once again Doug Burton, Doug formerly with the Washington Post, now with the War Desk News, and also with us today Magna Faith Creamy. Now Magna is a journalist out of Nigeria living in Silver Springs, Maryland, and we're glad to have him in studio with us. Esther Davis is here. Now if you have a question or a comment, feel free to open up the phone lines and give us a call at 972-996-3970. That's 972-996-3970. Now, of course, the United States of America, the Trump administration dealing with Iran. Now, when President Barack Obama was in office, he left about, over a couple of millions of dollars in cash he had sent to the Iranians. Now, some say that that was their money that we seized here as a country when they had gotten our embassy back during the Jimmy Carter days. And there were those who were really upset that the former president released all that money to the Iranians. And now Iran is accused of shooting down a $100 million drone. Iran is accused of reportedly, allegedly sinking or setting some oil tankers on fire in the Strait of Oman. So you got all kinds of things that's going on. But coming back to Al Harry, now Al Harry, your story, were you abducted or were you not abducted, Al Harry?
No, I wasn't abducted personally, but I'm from the Adara tribe.
Yes.
In Kaduna State, we're the largest Christian community.
Yes.
And the governor, Hausa Muslim Fulani Governor Malam Nasir El-Rufai, he just, on May 29th, 2018, completely abolished the Adara chiefdom. Now, being the largest Christian community in Kaduna State, that's huge, because we believe they're setting up, it's a testing ground for what they're planning to do in the country. You asked about Goodluck Jonathan, the
Yes.
previous president.
Yes, ma'am.
He was voted out of office in 2015 because we weren't happy with the way things were going, and we brought in Muhammadu Buhari, who came in on the wings of change.
Mhm.
But I have to say here that at least during the Goodluck regime, we were alive. People were alive to complain about the government. Since this government came in 2015, people are barely surviving. There are deaths and kidnapping going on every day. We don't even have time to complain about policies or no policies because we're literally being killed every day. We can't travel on highways. I can't travel from Kaduna to Abuja without being afraid of kidnap or being killed. And like Mercy said, Mercy is Adara tribe as well. And where she was kidnapped from is the Adara tribe I'm talking about that is being wiped out by the governor. and our chief resisted the change, we were wiped out and put under a Hausa Muslim emir, even though we're 95% Adara Christians. So the governor put us under an emir, and our chief resisted that change, and he was kidnapped by the same Fulani militants on the 19th of October 2018, and the Adara people paid a ransom of 7 million naira, 6 to 7 million naira. And after the ransom was paid on the 26th of October, he was murdered by the Fulani herdsmen. And the day he was abducted, 4 of his aides were killed on the spot on Adara land. And after that, my father is the wazir in Adara. He is in charge of the chiefdom in the absence of the chief. And in killing of the chief, we thought the government were culpable because he refused us being under a Muslim emirate. And a chief is chief for life. He can't take away the chief. The chief has to be dead before you can do anything. And he resisted it. And my dad and the other Adara elders took the case to court January this year, a civil court, to reverse the abolishment of Adara chiefdom, because right now the Adara doesn't exist legally. Our tribe, our tradition, the way we dress, our food, everything is gone, and we are 95% Christians. How are we put under a Muslim emirate?
Okay, well, let me just ask you this, Alheri. If they're doing away with your chiefdom, if they're doing away with your customs and your way of living, it sounds like either you convert to Islam or die.
Basically.
I mean, is that in essence what's going on?
That's what, well, they've not reached that stage, but we all know they're trying to look good on paper and try to make it look like everything is okay, and that's not what they're trying to do, but we know that's what they're trying to do. My father and Mercy's father were locked up for over 100 days this year for nothing. Nothing at all. 9 Adara Christian elders were locked up for killing Fulanis that has still not been credibly, what word is it? Proven till date. And only Christians are being locked up, only Christians are being killed. Between February and April of this year, over 400 women and children and elderly Adara Christians have been killed.
What can you tell us also, because we hear a lot of reports too about Christian churches being firebombed and bombed
Yes,
there in Africa.
yes.
What can you tell us about that?
Yes. The Christian community in Kaduna State has been under fire for a long time. Mercy and others were kidnapped 2 years ago. These things have been going on for years. Christian churches, just yesterday, a man and his son they went to the farm. We are predominantly farmers. And so we rely heavily on the government. Economically, we're backward,
Yes.
you know. So, and we get money from going to the farms. But right now, the Christian community in Kaduna State can't go to the farm. So the government is gradually making us dependent on the government and then not giving us avenues to be able to be dependent on the government. You know, they're not giving us. He brought up a new rule where he's abolishing citizenship in Kaduna State. So as Christians in Kaduna now, right, he's abolishing 3 chiefdoms in the southern part of Kaduna, which is predominantly Christian, have been placed under Islamic rule. And then Christian preachers, well, all preachers, he said all preachers, but we all know the underlying thing. Preachers are now to be regulated by the government, and your license is to be renewed every year. Which means if you preach what he doesn't want, you don't get renewed by the government.
Well, that sounds like socialism.
Yes.
That sounds like,
Yes.
We got Jim, let's look. We got a quick phone caller that's on the line here. Now, once again, we're talking with Alheri, and also Mercy's with us today. Doug Burton is here as well of Board Dash News, and of course Magda Faith Krimi, a journalist from Nigeria, is here. Esther Davis is here as well. They've come to the United States to tell their story, and hopes that the United States is a Christian nation in trying to help. But will we help? Or could what's happening there in Nigeria come to the shores of the United States
And
of
Robert,
America?
Robert, I hope my
Yes.
mic is open for the moment. When you come back with the caller, I want Alheri to mention to you her presence. They have been here almost 2 weeks, so their presence in the last 2 weeks has really, really been
Ruffled feathers.
What do you call it?
It has ruffled feathers.
It has ruffled feathers.
Well, I can
So
imagine.
when they found out that she was meeting, or the delegation was supposed to meet with the vice president, and I think it went to Ivanka Trump's office also.
Oh,
I want her to tell you what happened when her vice president or her president found out about this proposed union.
okay.
So don't forget
What
that.
happened there, Alheri? You all were going to meet with the Trump administration, trying to get some help?
Yes, we were trying to create awareness because the Nigerian government is sending out the narrative that this is just a farmer-herder conflict. And that's why we're not getting help. That's why nobody knows that Christians are being killed in scores on a daily basis. So we are here in the States to create awareness
Yes.
about what is really happening in Nigeria. And immediately we got here, our other delegation, Gloria, the Secret Service went to her office in Nigeria. She's a lecturer in the University of Jos. And they visited her already, telling her to report to them as soon as she gets back. And the Vice President of Nigeria is in the United States right now.
Right.
And after we gave our testimonies, he went for a town hall meeting in New York to say that those giving testimonies about kidnappings are lying, saying it's political. So we
Wow.
all know where that is coming from. It's because of the stories we've been given, and that goes to tell you how much the American people have influence over what happens in Nigeria. Things don't even have to actually happen, just a word, just a threat. Last year when our president, Muhammadu Buhari, came to Nigeria, and President Trump made a comment about watching the Christians in Nigeria, we had a drop in the killings in Nigeria, just from that statement that the president made. And then there's a lot of aid going to Nigeria from the United States government. We know that if the US government holds the Nigerian government accountable and tell them, look, if you don't fix your human rights issues, we won't give you aid, we know a lot will happen. You see the Adara killings happening, you will not find it in the media.
So you need the Christian church in America
Yes.
to put,
Yes.
put pressure
Yes.
on the United
Yes.
States government, to put pressure on the Muslim majority government
Yes.
in Nigeria to
Yes.
stop the killing and
Yes.
to allow people to peacefully coexist.
Yes.
Well, I'll
Yes.
tell you what, we've got to pause right now for another one of our quick breaks here. We got callers on the line here. Once again, coming up at 1 o'clock, we're going to talk with Manny Ramirez of the Fort Worth Police Association. But right now, we're turning the spotlight on Nigeria and what's going on there. Now, if you happen to be a Muslim, we're not trying to slam you because you know what's going on in a lot of these particular communities. There are Muslims who believe in this, and then there are some who believe in freedom. But I tell you what, you have to read the crowd and you just have to try to figure it out. We'll be back with more right after this.
Oh, he's good.
And caller, we thank you so much for holding and listening here on Community Forum. We're talking about Nigeria. Go right ahead there, caller. Hello, go right ahead there, caller. Thank you for calling. Go right ahead, please.
Yes, I wanted to make a comment. It's good that you have your guest on today. This is a very important topic, but I wanted to mention that this is not a new problem. It's very similar to the issue that was going on with Sudan and it was
Liberia? A lot of places.
Liberia. Well, basically what I'm saying, it's going on all over. And I'm bringing up the situation with Sudan because the same issue came up and it's continuing, and the response is what I'm talking about. There's a lot of fear. People fear this whole situation, and it's widespread because you have a lot of African Muslims, and they worldwide, and they will not take the moral high ground and look at the situation objectively, and that is a big problem that I saw. And not just in the Muslim community, but even in the so-called Black consciousness movement. There's a lot of denial. You know, I mean, it was just absolutely an eye-opener for me to see how people so-called conscious reacted to the situation. And I'm just still appalled by the whole situation. And as you see, it will not stop. It will continue until people really have the courage and the will to objectively deal with this issue. It is an issue, somebody said, has been going on perhaps in Nigeria within the last few decades, but it's been going on for millennia.
Okay.
People stop and think about how is it that Africa became so Islamized. You have to look at this pattern. It is ongoing and it's persistent and it's not going away. So that's my comment.
Well, I thank you so much for your very astute comment, man. We thank you so much for that. Let's see if we can get another quick comment because we're coming in because we're running out of time here. Let's go to this caller. Caller, we thank you. And you're on Community Forum. Go right ahead, please, caller.
How you doing, Dr. Ashton?
God bless you, sir. God bless you, sir.
God bless these ladies from Nigeria. I'm very familiar with the situation. I follow it all the time, and every time I go to church, and every Sunday, every Wednesday, we pray for our brothers and sisters over there, North and East Africa, and different parts of Africa. Sometimes we get so blind, we fail to put the dots together. There's something hard to see. The common denominator is the Quran. The Quran tells the Muslims to kill the men, put the knife to the neck over 100 times, and to rape the women, seduce the women, take advantage of women. So, just like in New Zealand, everybody's flipping out because socialist atheists kill Muslims. Now, I'm not condoning killing Muslims. I'm not saying that, but for the last for centuries now, Muslims have been killing Christians. And nobody's saying anything about it whatsoever. Nobody's saying nothing. So I'll pray for them because I can see them about the Christ. I don't see myself as an American Christian or whatever. I see myself as a Christian as part of the body of Jesus Christ. So I'll pray for my brothers and sisters around the world.
All right, my brother, we thank you so much for that call, sir. We thank you so much for that call. Well, let's see. Well, Doug and Alheri and Mercy, we're almost to run out of time here. And Doug, from your point of view, covering this as a journalist, what is it going to take to stop this, or do we have to understand that Islam believes that they have, their religion calls upon everybody to submit to Islam, and if not, you'll be beheaded?
Thanks, Robert. I think citizens have to get involved, and that's why we had a citizens town hall meeting yesterday in Bedford, Texas, and there was about 50 people there, and they were astounded, and many people stood up and said, we want to get involved. I'd like to defer some of my time to Alheri. She has a comment to make before we close.
I'm commenting about the Muslim, Nigerian Muslims all over the world not commenting. I think it's high time they did, because there's something about power. These people are allowed to do what they want, and they're getting out of hand. In Nigeria right now, when they block people on the road to kidnap, they don't ask you if you're Christian or Muslim. They go ahead and kill you or kidnap you. So I think it's high time the Muslims begin to talk. It's not a Christian-Muslim. Much as the Christians need to talk, it's Christians that are being killed. If everybody keeps quiet, it's going to roll over, and the Muslims are going to be in trouble as well.
Alheri, could that come to the United States?
Of course. We all know that for terrorists, their main aim in life is to attack the United States. So if they're able to get Nigeria, it's easier for them. We're about 200 million people in Nigeria. It's going to implode.
My goodness. All right, well, I'll tell you what, we're completely out of time. But Mercy, just a quick word from you, Mercy. We thank you for being here. We thank God, Mercy, that you're free today.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me here. I really, really appreciate the opportunity to say this. We really do need your help. Please pray for us. Pray for Nigerian Christians. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. And has the Trump administration been any help at all? The Trump administration?
Yes, definitely. We finally have hope. We have a voice. We have hope that things are going to...
Now, did the Obama administration help you out at all? Oh, help me, Jesus. All right,
I don't think so, Robert. I think the Obama administration was very slow to declare genocide, even in Syria, even when it was so obvious. And the Obama administration took many actions that defended is Muslims. So no, they didn't help. And in fact, they've propped up regimes that should have been cautioned or sanctioned.
All right, well, once again, Alheri, Mercy, and Doug, and also we want to thank Magna Faith Kirby for being those attorneys from Nigeria. And also want to thank Esther Davis. We thank all of you for being here. We're going to keep on going here. We are indeed your station, all gospel 24/7.
Right, your mics are here. Do you guys have cards that I can get
inspiration, motivation, and the best in gospel music. We're at 797 KHBN. Well, continuing on, let's go now to the city of Fort Worth, where